announcement is kind of hard show, but I'd like to recognize Chief Sam. He's been here a long time, and he's decided to retire and go to green pasture. But I know this is his last meeting.
Oh, everybody.
I know he's excited, but let's give him a round of applause. There will be a reception on July 28th, 5:30. At the
Can't hear you.
There'll be a reception for Sam on the 28th of this month, from 5 to 6:30. So please come by and say hello or goodbye, which it is. But we're gonna miss you, Sam.
That's everybody here.
Yeah, a moment of silence. I guess our moment tonight, we need to include those related to the fire that we just witnessed, and be thankful that no one was injured. But we would have a moment of silence. Thank you. And seeing that fire, I can see the need for our fire truck. So I think we're making a good decision. Pledge of allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Public comments. Well, let me read the one. We did have several comments come in, and instead of reading each one, the ones that were opposed to the animals, in the time, or wildlife or livestock in the time, Roger Briney and Catherine Brown. Pope Longest sent us a comment concerning the trash pullback service, and she felt that was a very good thing. It's actually been successful, in making life a little bit easier and cleaner for our town. The other was Michelle Ritter. She had several comments concerning the proposed ordinance for the Serenity Point area, or not Serenity Point, but for the preserve, Topsail Preserve, and they mainly dealt with clarification of regulations and signs. And all of these we were discussing tonight, and they're part of the MOU that we'll sign with the state. The state is the one that places the signs. It's under their regulations, and we'll have to abide by how they wish to do it. Yes.
Thanks, Zach.
Okay.
I'm here to recognize our police chief, my friend. There's not enough time to share the positive impact that Sam's had on our community. Unfortunately, the residents will never know and appreciate all the behind the scenes commitments and leadership that Sam shared. As a commissioner, we would have many conversations about our town topics. Sam, you would help me make good decisions, and I appreciate that, and I'm grateful for that. Sam never had a difficult time finding and maintaining staff. That's not easy. Ask them. Staff may not would agree with me.
Depends on what you're gonna say.
Sam is stubborn. When it came to budget meetings, Sam was prepared to ask only what he was needed. We would have to basically convince him that he needed more. He would sleep on a cot in his office instead of getting a room during storm events. If one of his officers had to miss a shift, Sam would not ask another officer to cover it. Sam would cover it. I volunteered to help when we had the beach patrol. Sam would hate to call me and ask me to help. That's just the way he was. I'd have to call him on Sunday morning, and asked if the interns came in. And finally he agreed to let me come in or, the funny part about it is I had to get certified to drive an ATV. So Sam told me to come by, he set up cones behind the police station. I'm going, really? So he put me through this, and I don't know if it's really true or not, that you have to get certified. Especially the parallel parking part. And I guess I passed because the following week he flagged me down and he presented me with a certificate. And I still have that certificate on my wall. I don't know if it's valid or not. He let me drive the ATV. I know we'll continue to meet up like we have. Sam, Terry, and I sincerely wish you all the best in your retirement. And finally, as I have for the last 8 years, it's not today, it's tomorrow. Happy birthday. Thank you.
Room 812 Ocean Boulevard. No, you know that. I have a lot of things. I even told Rochelle I would send her a copy of it when I got done. So I'm gonna, if you'll bear with me, I'm gonna read it because it's here for me. So I'm gonna try to get to it and not be crazy about it. Sam, I love you. I think you're fantastic. I'm sorry you're leaving, but I'm glad you're going. Okay, first thing I want to talk about is the budget. Before you approve the budget, I brought to the attention of the board about SB 484, that it was specific as to what expenses can be applied to accommodation revenue. I noticed that it is not on the agenda that there's any budget amendments to be made, so I want to know if the board's identified any of the current disbursements from the DIS fund that are now illegal under this bill. And if so, we have to move funds to cover those expenses. Where are we gonna fund those funds? Second, because some people on the floor like statistics. When I was looking at the budget, I looked at Surf City's budget as well. Surf City generates nearly double the accommodation revenue we do, 3 million versus 1.6. Significantly higher parking fees, 1.3 million versus our little over 270,000. Area growth, Hampstead 48%, Surf City 33%, Topsail 11% since 2020. Given these numbers, I'm still struggling to understand why we are paying 50% of the MOU costs for the traffic management. That by my thoughts and thoughts of feedback that I've gotten on the internet has largely failed us. I know that several people who spoke wanted to know who that contract is with, and to my knowledge, we still don't have an answer to that. And that contract, from what I read, is on auto renew. So talking about the feedback, I know that we, Topsail Beach, do not use social media as a reflection of public opinion, but when it's used correctly, it can provide valuable real-time feedback from citizens who can't attend 10 a.m., 2 p.m., 6 p.m. meetings. On that topic, I urge you for more consistent times that are convenient for the public. Overall, the feedback was mixed on social media, although I did manage to keep everybody from saying things they shouldn't say. There was some positive notes on the safety and the 2-hour help, but frustration over the long delays, which watching Surf City meeting last night, 3 of the commissioners experienced. Poor coordination of the flaggers, high cost versus simpler fixes like synchronizing the lights or metering. I know that the temporary light we have on the bridge on June 6th, DOT said would remain only a few more weeks, so I'm assuming that's going to be departing soon. Don't know when that is. The reason I know that is now I'm one of the citizens in Topsail Beach that knows more about NCDOT than I ever cared to want to know.
You have to find it up. 3 minutes.
Okay. There's a new light plan at Medland Drive. with 108 apartments, 67 townhomes, office space and retail space. According to NCDOT, we do not have proper representation at the meetings to get our voice heard. And last, since I'm running out of time, I'll skip e-bikes and go on to the noise ordinance, which is not on the agenda. We have no subjective way to address the base levels. We're in July. So we're managed to skip it down the season. We're gonna be at the end of the season before we get anything done.
Thanks.
Favorite Cheryl?
Yeah.
My name's Sandra Farrell, and it's my husband Robert, and we live at 522 North Anderson Boulevard. We have been there for 17 years. Like all of you, Topsail Beach is a very important part of our lives. Our children's lives, our grandchildren's lives. We currently live next door to 600 North Anderson, where 3 pigs live. We cannot use our back decks. We cannot use our backyard because of the odor and the flies. My husband grew up on a farm with chickens and pigs and cattle. These animals were never allowed to be part of the family. They were never allowed to be housed close to the farmhouse. I'm hoping we will abide by the code, limiting animals that can be kept on our very small lots. Our concerns are the odor, the health, and sanitation issues that impact our neighborhood. Please note also that Mrs. Nelson aggressively questioned myself and another neighbor, asking if we turned her in to the commissioners and what the pigs had ever done to us. I asked the commissioner, we asked the commissioners, and on behalf of our neighborhood, to listen to our concerns and act quickly to enforce the code. Thank you.
Oh, Fonda?
Sure.
Wait.
I think she had requested to, wait until the items up on the agenda.
That's everybody. That's everybody.
Okay, that's everybody. So we're gonna move right into the mayor's minute, instead of me talking. I think I'd like to introduce, the town manager of the city, Kyle Brewer. He has some information on the traffic and data that's actually statistics. So let's see what we got. Thank you, Kyle. Sure.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor and Commissioners. Again, my name is Kyle Brewer. I'm the town manager in Surf City. Just wanted to thank you for the opportunity to come and talk to you, especially with a interested crowd here. Certainly share those interests in Surf City and understand that we all have to work together to try and look at some of these issues. I want to thank the town manager, Bert, for her partnership in this and being available, and those that we've talked to try and look at this. So obviously it's not a new issue. However, deployment of some potential strategies to take a look at this is something that we are focused on, committed to, and want to see some things through. So I'm going to kind of go over some observations, go over some information that I've shared with you, and I'll communicate what that is to the audience. But traffic, it impacts everybody, and I think we saw that Sunday to its peak performance, I guess, if you want to call it that. I was impacted by that. I sat in traffic for 3 hours, so it's not something that I sit back and observe and do nothing about. This is something that is near and dear to me. It's near and dear to our mayor and our council, and we want to continue to do this evaluation so that decisions can be made. I'm going to go back a little bit and give a little bit of history on this, just recent history. But about 2 years ago, we began meeting with NCDOT, and that was born out of the frustrations of the island roundabout. And we knew that that island roundabout was considered a choke point for outbound and inbound traffic coming to the island. What DOT did was they commissioned a feasibility study on really short order. From my experience, more than 10 years, more than 15 years, I should say, working with DOT, nothing ever happens quickly. This resulted in 7 different alternatives in looking at that roundabout, each recommending removal of pedestrians. The town of Surf City said, we're going to go ahead and do that immediately, and which we did. 2 alternatives included widening of the bridge to allow for dual lanes exiting that would then taper back to the single lane. 3 alternatives that included pedestrian improvements only. 1 alternative that would connect South Topsail Drive back to Roland, allowing for a through movement as opposed to going through the roundabout to go north. I'll say that this was the first time that I received a comment that we had motorists that were trying to have dual lanes through the roundabout on Sunday so they could go around the inside stack of traffic to get to North Topsail. Obviously against the law, obviously very dangerous. So that just kind of shows what that looks like. 1 alternative that would use striping only to allow for a dual exit and a single lane entrance to the roundabout, eliminating the dedicated southbound turn lane, which I know is certainly benefits the town of Topsail Beach. The project that is, they're trying to move forward any alternatives, however, focusing on the South Topsail connection back to Roland Avenue, that would then go in front of the IGA. Surf City decided to eliminate the pedestrian movements, as I had noted, and we have seen some improvement, eliminating at least one minor distraction for motorists that are entering that roundabout. Again, it's to be assumed that most motorists that are traversing that during the peak times are most likely not familiar with the roundabout movement and having pedestrians cut across there, standing on the side of it, et cetera, can certainly be a distraction. In that discussion, another alternative was brought up, and that was to pilot the bridge ramp metering concept. This has been in effect since May 9th, and to our knowledge, it's the first time it's ever been used on a bridge movement like it is. And I'll talk a little bit about that further. So once again, that's been in place since May 9th. This is when we said, okay, we need to start collecting some information on what's going on, not just rely on observations, but what tools do we have available to us. So we started capturing what's called predictive drive times. In simple form, that's collecting drive times predicted by Google Maps to help determine effectiveness of that bridge light. This included collection of drive times from 4 determined routes. The S-curve to the island roundabout, Shell Road on the north to the island roundabout, Shepherd's Road to the island roundabout, and Magnolia Reserve to the island roundabout. So we're looking at outbound traffic as well as inbound traffic to help gauge that and make some determinations on effectiveness. The town has been continuing to collect this data on 30-minute intervals ever since May 9th. On May 20th, we decided to expand the data collection due to the delays being experienced on the mainland for both incoming and outgoing traffic. We added 2 new outbound data points or routes, which included the island roundabout to Magnolia, which is Magnolia Reserve along 210, and the island roundabout to Shepherd's Road. Coupled with the data that's being collected from the S-curve and Shell to the island roundabout, we can combine those data points to get a full observation of those predicted drive times from points on the island to the mainland. The good thing about this is we were able to capture those predictive drive times prior to the most recent efforts of the joint partnership between the 2 towns to deploy traffic management services or flaggers at mainland intersections. Talk a little bit about the operations of traffic management services. So these services began on June 27th and have now operated for 2 weekends straight. The first Saturday, admittedly was a little rough to start, as by the time they were in the intersection, traffic was heavy, and it took them a while to get organized and get vehicles moving. They also quickly realized that the intersection at Walmart was unneeded due to the timing of that light being in sync with the NC50 and NC210 intersection. That Sunday, they abandoned the Walmart intersection and focused on the NC50 210 intersection and the NC50 and Food Line intersection. Skipping ahead to this past weekend, they started on July 3rd. They were back and operated 3 intersections again, except for at this time they were controlling NC50 and NC210, NC50 and Food Line, and NC50 and JH Bass Road. They quickly realized that traffic coming from Charlie Medlin and Triton Lane was making it difficult and impossible to manage the JH Bass intersection and had to abandon that intersection on Friday. Operations continued through the weekend with services being provided on both July 4th and July 5th. That brings us to Sunday, July 5th. Experience of a complete network failure, in our opinion. Drive times going north in the afternoon of the 5th exceeded 3 hours, as I noted. I personally witnessed this as I was at the scene of the South Shore structure fire from early morning until about 12 noon on Sunday. Observations were that outbound traffic from day trippers, second homeowners returning to their primary residence on a Sunday before work on Monday, and renters completely overtook the system. Once I was able to get off the island, traffic was being managed along NC50, allowing for a consistent flow and no major delays. There are still some delays, but traffic was moving. Also, flaggers have noted that they have observed that more than 90% of vehicles are attempting to travel westbound on NC210 at the main intersection at 50 and 210. That stacking lane that provides for that left turn movement holds 15 cars. And once that 16th car arrives, it stops traffic, leading to network congestion and chain effect to back up along that corridor. Moving into the traffic light synchronization. The town, over the last couple years, has continuously communicated with NCDOT that the lights along NC50 are not in sync and need to be evaluated. We have shared data with them as well as drone imagery before flagging that a gap exists from JH Batts to the Island Roundabout, as well as outbound light timing issues. A meeting was held yesterday with DOT and their consulting engineer to look at this light, to share our concerns, Town of Topsail Beach's concerns, and provide input, which has prompted them to expedite their process and delivery of a new light schematic by mid-August. This effort will require a shutdown of flagging operations the weekend of July 18th, as well as a shutdown of the bridge ramp meter in order for them to collect data to help inform their efforts. What this allows the towns to do. We will then be able to capture baseline data that we did not have before, specifically for the predictive drive times that we began capturing when the bridge light was introduced, as well as to add to the outbound routes that were added later in May. So once again, when we started collecting this data and added the additional 2, the bridge ramp meter was already in place, and we had a couple weeks before the flagging operation, but now we've got to focus on some baseline data to be able to determine effectiveness of the efforts that have been. So moving forward, the key for this evaluation is determining the effectiveness of the 2 separate treatments. Through our partnership, we are collecting volume data coming into and leaving Topsail Beach, as well as volumes that are being collected in Surf City, both being generated through the use of LPR data for volume only. There's no license plate information or personal information that's being shared. So 2 questions. Ultimately, is the bridge light effective? Preliminarily, it appears to assist in northbound traffic exiting the island. However, what is the volume factor that disrupts or negates its effectiveness? And number 2, will the light synchronization mitigate the need for mainland traffic control to be implemented in mid-August? Those are two primary questions that we will need to obtain answers for. So some of the data that we've collected, I've shared with you dashboards that have been developed reflecting the predictive drive times. The first page is very difficult to interpret. It includes all 6 of those routes. But beyond that, each route is specified as an individual page so that you can kind of see. The caveat to this data is that it's being generated through Google Maps. And we know that at a certain point, delays in the system will present rerouting and cannot be considered 100% accurate. It's impossible to rely on that with a very high level of confidence. However, the confidence still should be pretty high. Looking ahead, we have several things that are underway. The R5900 project, I know I spoke personally with a few Topsail Beach residents during the public meeting for that. But DOT is currently in the project development phase for this project, which is focused on the NC 210 and NC 50 intersection, a major choke point for both inbound and outbound traffic. The primary focus of this will be dual left turns onto NC 210, leaving the beach with dual westbound lanes that will then taper back to a single outbound around Atkinson Point Road. The island roundabout, H25125. So when we have prioritization coming up, there's an interactive map that anybody can go on and you can go and like a project or you can dislike a project. I would advise any projects within our division that affect Surf City, Topsail Beach, Topsail Island in whole, please like those projects. We need funding. This community, this island needs funding, and we need all the help we can get. Light synchronization. Again, this is a project that is communicated to us to be delivered in an expedited manner. In my opinion, again, 30 days for DOT to turn something around and to implement those engineering results is no small feat, and we look forward to that. Volume determination for system failure, and then how do we communicate that? So we know that when we start digging into the actual volume data, not just the predictive drive times, and we can kind of combine those two together, there's going to be a point that the network cannot handle the volume. I mean, that is clear. We would have to add asphalt in every single direction that you're looking at in order to increase the capacity of the network. And also other ideas the towns can evaluate to seek implementation. No idea is a bad idea, in my opinion, through this process. I'm personally collecting any and all ideas so that we have a repository to start discussing some of these other options. Dare not to mention, some of the ideas that have been thrown out there, but the residents have good understanding of what's going on. They deal with this every day. So I'd certainly say if you have ideas, please let us know. Check in and check out days or incentivizing certain behaviors of visitors to this island certainly can be topics for future discussion. Well, my goal will be to first and foremost go and talk with my legal counsel to see what options may be legal or not legal. Those are going to be challenges to implement, but we owe it to everybody in this scenario. So again, I don't come here with all the answers. I feel like I would be failing you if I came and purported that we've solved the problem. That's not what I'm here to really talk about. What I'm here to talk about is that the data being collected from both the assistance of predictive drive times and the volumes are hopefully going to be able to let us tell a story. That doesn't just end here. It then gets conveyed to DOT. It gets conveyed to our state legislature to assist in getting solutions for Topsail Island as a whole. And that the flagging operations will conclude on July 18th for those decisions. So this board, as well as the town of Surf City, has a little bit of time in order to make the determination for future funding for the traffic services that have been deployed. Ms. Kroom, I'll just respond if you don't mind, Mr. Mayor. The contract, we could terminate it tomorrow if we wanted to. And we can tell them we don't want them on Saturday because it's going to rain, or Sunday because it's going to rain, or I could call them at 12 o'clock in the afternoon and they would be out of there. They're very responsive. The company's name is Phoenix Services Group. They go by, typically go by PSG, which is a contractor in a list of contractors that were sent over by DOT that are certified to do the flagging operation. So again, I hope that what I've been able to provide to you is a glean into sort of the operations that we are working on, those predictive drive times, which I was trying to hone in on July 4th, because that Saturday, I will tell you that the drive times were not that bad. Inbound, they've been able to make a difference on inbound traffic. So those major delays coming off of 50 and 210 have been able to be pushed through. They've been able to stop people on 210 to allow volume to come through on 50. And then also on the outbound, stopping the 210 and Bell Road traffic to flush as many leftbound turns that they possibly can for people choosing to take 210 towards 17. For this upcoming Saturday, we're going to put out a message board sign requesting. We're not going to set up an official detour, but we're going to request people to take NC 50. Try to go straight. There's Shepherd's Road. You can take it directly to Highway 17 and Holly Ridge. But if we can at least give that idea to some folks, perhaps we can alleviate some of these concerns. I'm happy to answer any questions that you have, Mayor. If I can't answer the question, I will simply say I can't answer the question. I appreciate the opportunity to come and talk to you because I really do look at this as both towns dealing with this issue and certainly respect and understand that Topsail Beach must go through Surf City to exit and obtain services and all those other things. So I'll turn it back over to you, and I appreciate, again, the time to come and talk to you.
One, I guess, basic question, if the manual was pulled away and just left to the lights as they are right now, any idea what the impact might be?
Well, I think we'll immediately see a reversion of the frustrations around that intersection. I'm not confident that the flaggers have caused more of an issue. I truly don't. So, again, I think some of the choke points there, and again, I witnessed this personally, is coming down 50 and trying to get across that 210 intersection to come to the beach. If you have constant right-hand turn movements coming off of 210, you can never navigate across that intersection without risk because your tail end is going to be sticking out in that intersection, or somebody's going to try and cut you off with that right turn movement. So you kind of wait till the very end and then scoot across if there's a little bit of space. So, safety wise, over this reporting period, we've had no major incidents or accidents, which is a positive because we have to throw that data point out in the drive time stuff. So I know it's frustrating for folks, especially when they don't understand what's going on. People that are visiting the island, and you've been sitting in traffic for an hour, you're going to blame anybody you can. And it's not something that's fun. And, I think it's just human nature to be upset with the folks that are in that intersection. So, I hope that answers your question.
Any additional questions or comments?
You talk about like a right turn, they put no right turn on red there.
If DOT would do that. And, that's one of these things with the light synchronization that perhaps they want to look at. And again, we did let them know that there's another project at Charlie Medlin that they've got to consider for future implementation with the synchronization. Okay.
He didn't more lights planned along that area?
Other-
Lights planned along that area?
Other than the one at 50 and Charlie Medlin that Ms. Kroom had mentioned, that's the only thing that is planned. Once you get any further than J.H. Batts, it's gets to be a little swampy and, you know, major development may shy away from that.
But like you said, I think the main problem with the lack of infrastructure. Too much volume and less in. I mean, I don't think putting guys out there is gonna solve that problem.
Again, there's a failure point. What that point is, I'm not exactly sure right now, but we're gonna try to figure it out.
I think we found out last Monday.
Oh, yeah, but to put a number on it, because again, as a community, I always look at communication and some of the tools that we have, and, you know, is when we start to see things creep up to a point, we've got to be able to communicate, hey, you can come, but you might not even get here, type of communication. So,
Our parking lot Sunday were pretty empty, so people got the message, don't come.
Yeah.
But I will have to say, I think your knowledge and your communication of it, while we have, like, rightfully to pay 50% of this tab, because you're running all the metrics and directing and pulling the triggers in. I, for one, am very grateful for your expertise and all you've done on this. We're partners in this, and I appreciate you looking at it that way.
thank you, Commissioner. I appreciate that. And I meant to say, I'm not a traffic engineer.
You're coming close.
Yeah.
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 I do just want to also say thank you, Kyle. You've been a wonderful to work with and you've put in a lot of man hours, definitely taking the lead on that. So I just want to thank you personally.
Sure. It's again, my pleasure. I enjoy the data and the science side of it. I really do. I don't like the results of, you know, having to do this, but, it's my duty to do that. So.
Thank you so much.
Yes, sir. And Chief, congratulations. I've enjoyed working with you.
Thank you, Mr. Burr.
That's it?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna head out. We have dealt with pigs and Cersei.
Where do you keep?
Not in Sur City, maybe in Topsail Beach, I guess.
He can still
What's going on there? So we need to move on to the approval of the, Eastern Braidwood agenda.
I think we should approve the agenda.
Staff does have two additional, requests to add if you would do so. We do have a resolution, supporting the public access grant that we would be applying for the South End, Preserve facility. So we'd like to have that. That can be done at the last item if you want.
Let's do 16A.
Perfect. And then also in addition to that, with all of the other text amendments that we have proposed to go along with the Topsail Preserve ordinance and the agreement, we overlooked one that we'd like to add, and that would be to a text amendment for the public beach definition. And if that could be somewhere, maybe even prior to 13 or around 13, that would be great.
Oh, we do 12A.
Perfect. Thank you.
Any other changes?
We accept the agenda as, edited, modified.
I second.
Motion to second, all in favor?
Aye.
Passes. Conflict of interest. Start with you, Alex.
No.
No.
No,
Approval of the consent agenda. Everyone's had a chance to look at that.
Make the motion we approve consent agenda as presented.
I second.
Motion to second, all in favor?
Aye.
Number one. Update Parks and Recreation of Council, no meeting. Let's see. Planning Board. Be good tonight.
Oh, yeah.
Planning board met for their regular meeting on June 24th. They welcomed new board member Mark Rocket and appointed Julie Sims as chair. Randy Leesburg will remain vice chair. Wes and Cloud Fingerwood Training presented a training for the board, and many questions were answered regarding duties of the planning board. And the next meeting is scheduled for July 22nd.
That's it.
Any questions? Pretty well, thank you. Update of PIF. William?
Unfortunately, William could not be here tonight, so he sent in an update and asked me to read it. They had their last meeting on June 11th, and at that meeting, TI Coastal, they are in the process of collecting beach inlet and sound survey information and should be finished in the next couple of days. This survey is conducted annually prior to the peak of the hurricane season to allow us to accurately determine erosion losses that might occur if we should have a storm. Our inlet and sound depths appear to be holding out well for commercial and recreational boaters. The U.S. Coast Guard recently remarked the channels based on the recent surveys. The North Carolina legislature has largely wrapped up their session and passed the funding budget. We were unable to pass legislation for a temporary moratorium for shellfish leases, same with Carteret County, but due in large part to opposition to all agricultural moratoriums by Farm Bureau. The budget did include money for a shellfish lease study and a beach management plan study. There was also funding and legislation for abandoned and derelict vessels. Unfortunately, Kyle's already left, but we'd like to congratulate Surf City. Their 50-year coastal storm damage mitigation project has been approved and will be moving forward. Funding for the first year has been approved, and future funding is included in the proposed WRDA bill of 26. Congressman Rouser's office was very helpful in this process, and this is good news for Surf City. The BIS committee will not be meeting in July, and their next BIS committee meeting will be at 2 p.m. on August 13th, right here in this room. So we would like you all to join us.
Any questions? On public safety building.
You know, we don't have much of an update. There's just a lot of behind the scenes going on at the moment. Right now, we're really working towards our DEQ permit. We had a couple of revisions to do. So staff did meet with, and Thomas Construction did meet with members of DEQ just to finalize those things. Nothing that's going to hold us up. We're still on track to begin construction right around the beginning of September.
Well, hey, the beach regulation definition change.
Well, we're jumping right into it now, aren't we?
Yeah.
Okay.
Keep going.
Well, I'd just like to preface, a lot of the following items are all really tied in together to culminate at the end with item number 16, which is to eventually adopt the MOU for the management of the south of the preserve, the Topsail Preserve, between the town and the state. So in order to be cohesive and for our rules and our ordinances to blend with the MOU, we've had to do quite a few text amendments. So that's really what's following. First one is in our current ordinance, the term public beach, the definition of public beach really just said the dry sand lying between the Atlantic Ocean and the toe of the dune. That is not cohesive with the general statutes and actually in other sections of our ordinance. So tonight we are proposing to change the definition for public beach as is proposed in your packet. I don't need to read it necessarily, but it is in line with general statute 7720E or F, I'm sorry. So that is the first item of business. We're asking you to consider this text amendment. You should all have that in front of you. Yeah.
So we will allow sailboats, non-motorized sailboats, and catamarans to be on the beach strand overnight.
Well, so this Article 2, beach regulations and where the definition is found is not part of the ordinance, Chapter 24 ordinance that is going to be the newly created ordinance for Topsail Preserve, which we'll be talking about a little bit later. This only pertains to our beach regulations outside of the preserve.
And does it apply to public beach? Is that just the ocean front or ocean and sound?
Public beach now, if we were to make this amendment, would be, everything adjacent to the Atlantic Ocean and the Topsail Inlet, as defined in general statutes for North Carolina. I can pull that up, actually.
But not Banks Channel.
Does not specifically say Banks Channel. We do have that, estuarine shoreline in the Topsail Preserve language for their chapter of the ordinance. Pull that up, if I could do it here.
I think it's wise not to have it on things, you know.
Yeah.
People that boat and boats and things like that, canoes. So, yeah, we need, well, any further discussion?
Make a motion, we approve the beach regulations as written.
Second. I have a motion and a second. All in favor? Approved. Thirteen, discuss, consider, and vote on text amendment, chapter 4, animals. Yeah.
Well, when we first began working on the text amendments, in order to be in alignment with the MOU that we'll be talking about a little bit later, we realized that all of chapter 4, we wanted to look at it, make sure that it was clear, if it needed updating or any of that. So in chapter 4 of our current ordinance, it discusses livestock. It also discusses dogs, and it also discusses horses. So we sort of took each one separately to review. According to the state preserve regulations, they do not allow horses on the preserve, nor do they allow dogs off leash at any time throughout the year, which our ordinance did allow. So for the horses section, if you want to look all the way at the very end, which is Article 3, the last page, we just left in there that horses would be prohibited on the beach strand. And we deleted the rest of the section for that in order to be in compliance. Then if we can move up to Article 2, which is on page 4, so what you have in your board packet. For Article 2 is dogs. And the only change that we had in there was section 4-24. And we added that dogs must be on a leash at all times within the Topsail Nature Preserve. We also added the definition of Topsail Nature Preserve in this section as well. Of course, it will be in the chapter 24 ordinance as well. So that's really the only change there, which again would restrict dogs off leash in the Topsail Preserve area 365 days a year. So always, but it still allows for dogs to be off leash the rest of the town from May 15th, or I'm sorry, from September 30th to May 15th.
Not in Coyle, but on the beach.
Yes, sorry, in beach strand
No,
within the
right,
rest of the
right.
town. That's correct. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
And I had two suggestions we talked about, but we decided not to make them as kind of late. And one is, they're minor. Under public nuisance on page 1, the section 2C, to change that 12-month period to an animal at large at least 2 times within a 6-month. And the second one was section 4.24. The dogs having to be on a leash at all times in the Topsail Nature Preserve. That's a pretty big change. I suggest we make that A, so it's the first thing someone sees going to this section. Because it is inconsistent with the regulations in other areas, so I think we ought to highlight that.
Do that up today.
Not delete it, just move it up to A, so when someone's looking at restrictions, they see that immediately.
Change this up here. First off, I think this is all inclusive, and a lot of people have written in different attitudes toward it. But we are trying to be very, comprehensive, looking at not just one species of animal, but all of it, so that we felt it's better to address everything and make changes. So, I think you had some comments that you.
Yes.
We'll open it up for more discussion with anyone else if they wish.
He was expecting the comments. I didn't know.
It's right
You're there, never mind.
there.
I did your comment.
You couldn't say
How long is it so to be North Anderson Boulevard? I've been here since 2008.
Pull your microphone down, I don't know if it's working.
Microphones are not
It's not.
working because it's not working.
I can put it together.
So the streaming, everything's dead.
No, the streaming is still working.
It is.
Just
They
speak
just
up.
can't hear it.
I'm taking this by in alphabetical order. I have 5 letters here to read. Some of them are brief, one of them is lengthy. That's all right. I can read fast. This is from Roger Briney. It's 516A North Anderson Boulevard. He is an attorney. He has written for him and his wife as well. I'm writing to express my opposition to the maintenance of farm animals, including pigs, on residential properties in Topsail Beach. This opposition is based on concern about odor, increased flies, and unsanitary excrement. The presence of such animals in residential areas will also certainly affect neighboring houses' property values. Homeowners who have purchased homes in Topsail Beach have done so for enjoyment of the beaches and other activities available here. The homes in our neighborhood are not being used for short-term rentals, but rather are for the owner's personal enjoyment. The presence of pigs in this neighborhood will have an adverse effect on our enjoyment of our homes. The second letter is from Catherine and Randall Brown, who live at 516C North Anderson. We are opposed to our neighbors at 600A North Anderson Boulevard having 3 pigs on their property. They are a health and sanitation issue and are illegal in Topsail Beach. We have owned Topsail Beach property for the last 37 years. We are worried about our property value and our ability to sell our home in the future until this issue is resolved. Next letter is from Pamela Dodge Hendrickson, who lives oceanfront at 517 North Anderson. I'm opposed to having pigs in my neighborhood as not allowed under the town's farm animal provision ordinance under Article 1, Section 4-4.1. Keeping of livestock is prohibited. This is my letter. My name is Hope Longest and I live at 602B North Anderson Boulevard. I am one lot behind 600 and the fence built to contain the 3 pigs on the property of Aaron and Jason Nelson. I met the family the day before they moved in on May the 5th. The pigs were introduced 2 days later after the fence was built. I was relieved to know that Topsail Beach has an ordinance prohibiting livestock within the town limits. That being understood, my concerns are as follows. Odor from the pen, flies attracted to the area, sanitation issues, in parentheses, if feces are collected, where are they being deposited? The first and foremost is the impact on the value of surrounding properties. If I looked at my house for possible purchase, I would walk away upon learning that there's a pig pen adjacent to the driveway leading to my house. Please take necessary actions available to the town of Topsail Beach to have the pigs permanently removed from the property. This is from Katrina and Eric Vainrich, who live at 516B. I'm writing as a concerned property owner and resident of Topsail Beach to express my strong opposition to the recent decision to allow a neighboring property to keep not 1, but 3 swine on the island, despite the town's existing code prohibiting them. This issue is not about whether the town should change its ordinances. It is about the enforcement.
Sorry.
Well, this was the
Will you finish reading this on your 3 minutes? May I have some of his 3 minutes?
Sure, go ahead.
Absolutely.
I'll defer to you.
It is about the enforcement of laws that already exist. When residents invest in a home or property on Topsail Beach, they do so with the understanding that the town's ordinances will be applied fairly and consistently. Those ordinances provide predictability, protect property owners, and preserve the unique character and environmental integrity of our island. If an existing law can simply be ignored or selectively enforced, then every ordinance becomes subject to interpretation rather than enforcement. That undermines public confidence in the town's government and raises an obvious question. If this ordinance can be disregarded, which one is next? The environmental concerns associated with keeping swine on the barrier islands should not be minimized. Barrier islands are environmentally sensitive ecosystems with fragile soil, underground water concerns, unique wildlife habitats, and limited infrastructure. Swine produce significant amounts of waste that can contribute to nutrient runoff, water contamination, odors, pests, and impacts on surrounding properties. Since these animals arrived, there has already been a noticeable increase in flies in the immediate area. Whether intentional or not, introducing livestock into a residential beach community creates impacts that extend well beyond the boundaries of a single property. There are also public safety concerns. These pigs have escaped confinement on more than one occasion. One of our policemen found one and returned it. Our own family has personally witnessed them loose while we are outside. Residents, visitors, children, cyclists, pedestrians, and pets should not have to worry about encountering escaped livestock in a residential neighborhood. The fact that these animals have already escaped multiple times demonstrates that this is not simply a hypothetical concern. Beyond the environmental and safety implications is the issue of fairness. For 15 years, our family owned a pit bull that was a beloved member of our family. Throughout these years, we encountered numerous restrictions because of our dog's breed. There were apartments we could not rent, vacation accommodations we could not stay in, neighborhoods with HOA restrictions where we could not purchase a home, and places we simply could not visit because we were committed to that breed. Whether we agreed to these rules or not was irrelevant. We respected them because they were the rules. We did not expect exceptions to be made simply because of our circumstances being different. The same principle should apply here. Existing laws should not become negotiable simply because one property owner wishes to be treated differently. Selective enforcement creates unequal treatment among residents and sends the message that compliance with town ordinance is optional. There are also legitimate concerns regarding the long-term effect on surrounding property values. We've covered that. Perhaps most importantly, this issue affects the trust between the town and its residents. Many of us have lived. All right, thank you. It continues to be quite effective, but Tommy does need his own. Thank you.
I think she used not 3 minutes, did you, Mr. May?
No, only 1.5.
And those letters be given to the clerk and then record.
So my name's Dr. Tom Duke, and my address is 608 North Anderson Boulevard. So, and I was asked to come read what I wrote to Stephanie Moore on June 19th. And everything I had in my letter already been said, basically, but I just want to register my opposition for numerous things, including the sanitation, flies, the escape, and those kinds of things. And I was aware, looked it up and was aware there was an ordinance and prohibited livestock being kept inside the city limits. And if you look at the definition of livestock, swine is not. That's my opposition.
That letter is already in the record.
I got it right here. Should
I just want to make sure the clerk has it. And it's going to the record.
It's very brief.
Anyone else have any comments? Anybody on the board?
Okay.
I make a motion to adopt the resolution as written with the two changes noted.
Motion is second. On favor?
Can I also ask for a vote? We have some associated reference documents that will have to be changed, that are in your package as well. One would be the fee schedule, which would be taking up the fees for work permit and driving permits, as well as the, section 1.7 and, I'm sorry, 1.6, 1.7, and 1.8, gives the, penal code and then civil violation, code violation. So those will also be updated to reflect what you just adopted with the ordinance.
We need to do it.
A resolution on those.
I think you can do a vote to accept the associated documents that were in your
I
package.
make a motion, we accept the documents including the fee schedule in section 1.6, 1.7, and 1.8, in addition to the, revisions to the ordinance.
Thanks.
Motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Clarifying question, what would be the timing of the appointment of the chair?
We're working on getting some scheduled for that.
Would be away again, because they have to look at it.
And they just haven't had an opportunity to meet. They haven't had a case to discuss. So they haven't met since they had new members.
If you go through all that trouble, I'm happy to do it. Not here, at least online, present to give them a tutorial. My guess is they need a refresher.
Let's go to, item 14, discuss, consider, and vote on text amendment, chapter 22, division 3, Point Beach Drain.
Okay, again, you have the text amendment proposed in your package, but this essentially is again to comply with the MOU that we're going to be discussing a little bit later. This would effectively remove or prohibit beach driving on the beach strand in order to comply with the MOU regulations of the preserve. Again, also the fee schedule that would go along with that would be amended if this was to be approved.
Any discussion? As before,
We got blindsided up the back.
Can't hear you.
Well, I'm gonna make a motion that we accept the text amendment to chapter 22, because you're correct, we got blindsided. But we really don't have a choice in it, and we got 110 plus acres that will not be developed. And I think that balances some unpleasantness. So I would vote that we accept the text amendment that staff's prepared and associated fees.
have a motion and second, all in favor?
No,
One
correct, yeah. I'll let you know.
Let's go to 15, discuss, consider, and vote on text amendment to add chapter 24, article 4, helpful nature provision.
Yes, when we first started discussing this, we talked about maybe doing an overlay district for the preserve area because they will have some specific regulations, just specific to them, and that wouldn't apply to the rest of the town or rest of the beach strand in the town. And ultimately, after having conversation with our consultant, Wes McLeod, our planning consultant, and with the help of town planner Stephanie Moore, they came up with actually a chapter to our town ordinance that was specific to the Topsail Nature Preserve. So this would be an additional chapter, chapter 24, to the town ordinance, again, specific to the Topsail Preserve. This has been reviewed by our town attorney as well.
And just clarification, the overlay district, which would have been simple to do, with the exception since it's state land, it would have to be approved by the council of state.
Christine,
Yes.
the language for the definition of public beach in the one that is in the agenda packet.
This one? Yeah, it was sent out later, updated later.
Okay.
For what we sent out at 2 o'clock today or 1 o'clock today.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure.
When we had originally updated, we updated that one this afternoon, actually, and late, after working with, the, West Cloud, our consultants, and also with the state on the wording. Really, that came down to the public beach definition that we, adopted earlier today, so we had to change the language in the, ordinance as well as the MOU. Everyone got updated copies of that this afternoon.
Discussion.
I make a motion, we adopt the proposed Topsail Nature Preserve ordinance.
Second, have a motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Now, discuss and consider and vote on Topsail Nature Preserve memorandum of understanding.
And I think we actually added,
Oh.
the resolution here for
The
16A.
resolution.
Yeah,
That we added, just so everyone understands, this is a resolution in support of the town applying for a public CAMA access grant.
I bet it's 16A.
Yes. Isn't that where we are? Oh, you meant afterward, after the MOU. I'm so sorry.
I thought we just did that.
Apologize. So that was the ordinance that we just did. This is the MOU. My apologies. So again, all of the things we did this evening, all culminated and derived from the proposed Topsail Nature Preserve MOU. This is going to be the document, the agreement between the town and the state to manage and enforce the Topsail Preserve property. Being everything passed this evening, all of the language has been, is consistent now throughout our ordinance, throughout the MOU. So the MOU should, again, if it's adopted, then that's going to be our guiding document in order to do enforcement management of the property. We've had this, was on the agenda in the last meeting, and there's been some minor tweaks, but again, that was mostly due to the definitions.
And this is acceptable to Deaners.
Yes, actually, it has been reviewed by their attorney, the state attorney, and that's actually who caught the definitions just a couple of days ago. So we've been working on fixing that, which we did.
It was the last piece of the puzzle.
Yeah.
I make a motion. Approve the memorandum of understanding between the town of Topsail Beach and the North Carolina Department of Environmental Quality, Division of Coastal Management regarding Topsail Nature Preserve at the end of Topsail Island.
Second.
Have a motion, a couple of seconds. All in favor? Aye. And
Thank you. That was a lot of work, staff and consultants and staff and commissioners all worked on. So I just want to thank everybody for all their hard work and what they contributed, especially certainly Stephanie Moore, town planner. She and Wes worked very hard on a lot of that language, and it was a lot. So thank you. Now we'll go on to the resolution.
Resolution supporting public access grant.
Yeah, as you know, we did acquire the property at the south end where our parking lot is. It is our intent now to improve that property by adding some parking spaces, not too many, but some parking spaces. Also bringing some ADA compliant parking spaces to add there, as well as a plaza for a monument that's going to be constructed for Coastal Land Trust to thank all the donors of the property and how we acquired that. Also, we're going to have some permanent bathrooms down there. Our goal is instead of the porta johns, so we're looking forward to that. Also, we're going to have ADA compliant beach access and an observation deck. So that'll be lovely. You can watch the sunset down there. The total project is going to be $500,000. We are asking for $250,000 for the grant, and the town will match that with funding that we are going to be receiving from Coastal Land Trust.
Mr. Jackson's office was so gracious to help us, and he put in his part of the budget, 250,000 for prudent salary. So we'll be able to pull this off with no expenses coming out of the town.
So the resolution is actually part of what will be needed as one of the documents in order to submit our final application, and which is due July 31st.
I make a motion that we support the resolution and pass it, but it would be remiss if I didn't add that, bathrooms, the viewing station and all of that were designed by our mayor, which we wouldn't be there. And he also called because we'd missed the deadline for applying for the CAMA grant to get us the ability to apply for this grant. So, he's done some heavy lifting to get us to this and to get rid of the Fort Johns.
John.
Second.
Yeah.
Sam needs to come back when all that's built and done.
So he doesn't have to go. into
Rededicate the
it.
bathrooms, yeah.
Need a motion to enter.
I just made the motion.
Second.
Second.
Okay, motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Go on.
Almost.
Discuss, consider, and vote on accepting the offer from our PowerPoint for Monaco and Boots.
Yes, this is something that we've been discussing the last couple of board meetings. We did get an original offer for purchase the steel monopole in the back as well as the cellular leases that go along with that. We have 4 of them on the tower. At last month's meeting, we did a resolution to accept that offer and go out for sealed bids and upset bids process through the general statute. We did do that. We advertised for our duly 10 days in the paper. We did not receive any additional upset bids. So the original offer from Tower Point at 2.35 million still stands, and they are still ready to move forward. If the board would like to accept that offer, that would then trigger going into the purchase agreement with them. And they would start a due diligence process. Until we get the actual purchase agreement, we don't have all the language. Obviously, this would be something I'll be working with Commissioner Best as well as our attorney. And I think in conversations, we're looking at likely somewhere around 90 days for a complete closure. Of course, that's going to be based on, if there's any information or documents that they may need that we don't have. And if Commissioner Best would like to add anything to that.
I think it's a great deal. I think the money, it'd be a great addition to our rainy day fund.
I do think, communication in the next 25 years, they're gonna be more than what we've ever seen.
Glad they want to buy.
For the residents, the revenue is, am I right, Connie, around 100 grand a year? So we're getting 23 years with no present value. If you did the present value, you go. It's surprising. So I make a motion, we accept the offer and move forward to closing.
Second.
Okay, all in favor? During the attorney reports. Ready?
The attorney has been heavily engaged, so that is which the board is familiar, and I will not take up any further time.
Thank you.
You back your feet.
Heard a lot, thank you.
Again, I feel like I've done a lot of talking in there. So if you have any questions other than what's in my report, I have nothing else.
Any questions? Public comments, please. Thank you.
My name is Ashley Miles. I live at 510
North Anderson Boulevard. I'm coming here to address the change in the ordinance due to the issue that we're having with the kids. I moved to Topsail Beach 4 years ago. I have 2 young daughters. In the selection of my home, we are a family that has chickens. They are not free-range chickens. They are well cared for. We were getting one of them in back 2 days ago. They are very well cared for. That was part of the selection, or I would have not moved to this area because these are my daughter's pets. She has names for every one of these. I did my research. I looked at the ordinance and I said, what does the ordinance say? Because I followed the rules. I'm in human resources. I understand why we have rules and how important rules are to keeping order. Ordinance states livestock. That came into question in my mind. I said, well, what is livestock? I need to understand what livestock is. Livestock is, our ordinance talks about livestock in the general NC statute. Chapter 68, 15:1 contains the definition of livestock. It does not include chickens. It includes equine animals, bovine animals, sheep, goats, llamas, and swine. Not poultry, not chickens. So from the bottom of my heart, I ask that if there is some way to grant some sort of grandfather to these animals, these pets that my daughter has. We follow the rules coming in. And if I have to look her in the eyes and tell her that she's got to get rid of her animals, it's going to rip me apart. It's going to rip the child apart and my family. I followed the rules coming in. And I'm very upset at the fact that the rules are adjusting. This would have never been a thing had we not had an issue with swine. Because the way we love and care on these and our neighbors, even the comment was made today, hey, you may want to get down there and be part of that meeting because they're bringing up pigs. I would have never known you had chickens had you not brought me eggs because we share eggs with our neighbors. So I am requesting that it's taken into consideration because I don't want to do that to my kids. I appreciate the time and thank you for listening.
But I will say last time I was here, which was in a special meeting, or the one before the special meeting. You asked me who I spoke with at NCDOT and who I'd been in contact with. The board did. So, I wrote down their names because I knew I would never remember. Jeff Garrett, Adrian Cox, Jimmy Tate, Sam Boswell, Carson Smith, and Fred George. So if you want their numbers and their emails, God knows I have them.
I think we have. Yeah. We're not winded.
I know more about it than I ever wanted to, so if you don't want to talk to them, I get it.
We are talking to, we're talking to the RPO, our group planning, and matter of fact, we got a meeting on the 22nd. Yeah.
On Zoom with Sam Boswell. See, I know. I'm in the know.
Any other?
Pam Shizzy, 2121 Shoreline Drive, you know me, so you know Susan. It's the first place to Ashley where she go. I would totally expect that we would take a hard look at the backyard chickens. They're wonderful pets. They're very smart. I would like to have some. I'm just afraid of the coyotes and the hawks and whatnot. But I think that there is a difference between the livestock and the chickens. So again, considering that, thanks for being forthcoming because nobody might have known if you hadn't been so honest. So I can say, wow, I might not have said anything, but to just follow up on the parking. So as I had asked previously about what Kyle's experience is and appreciate all the work that's gone into this. However, he's not a traffic engineer. He's collecting information, which is predictive drive times, which is an AI feature. If you're familiar with that or not familiar with that, talking about future times based on past history. I'm not sure we have the history that would support it. And number two, collecting information is still not data. You have to analyze it and really crunch it down. So it's good information. It's like the carrot on the stick sounds good to everybody in the room, but there's still a lot more work to be done on that, because if you add, and I would support 2 lanes on the circle, but now we still have the choke point, or as I call it, theory constraints. You can't move 2 lanes of traffic down single lane roads. It just doesn't work. It'll never work. And we're small islands. The other thing about that project is when I'm an ISO auditor, and so when we go into organizations, the biggest thing about auditing under ISO is you can't audit your own work. And the reason for that is, let's just take healthcare, is when people audit their own work, everything looks beautiful. It's 100% compliant. And you can see evidence of that in hospitals where surgical site infections are rampant, yet their hand washing is pristine with 100%, and doctors 100% of the time change out their gloves in dirty cases, yada, yada, yada. Last thing, 2 last things about ordinances. You can write 100 ordinances and text amendments, but we still need those things to be enforced, because without enforcement, we just have a lot of language that frustrates people who think that it should be enforced. And I'm one of those people that think, if you're going to have an ordinance, how are we going to enforce it? And to that consideration, with all that's going on down at the south end, there needs to be some thought to how the police department either can change their strategy or expand their staff to give us adequate coverage down on that end. We have a lot of people going there. There's a lot of ordinances currently that are not being enforced down there. Nobody's fault. It's just the way it is right now. And that was pretty much all. And that 365 leash thing is great, but I think I read somewhere about a 20-foot leash. Dog, that's 20 feet is still too long because people aren't controlling their dogs. So thank you.
Go ahead. Hearing none. Mayor and Commissioner reports.
Mr. Mayor, before we get into your comments, is from the extensive research I did on the animal ordinance, it's not uncommon in municipalities to see, for lack of a better word, sub-exceptions with respect to chickens, limits placed on the number and that sort of thing. And I'm happy to propose a draft text amendment to the ordinance you just adopted tonight for your adoption at the next meeting, which I'm sure that is wise enforcement staff would not exercise immediately his full capabilities under the ordinance.
I think that'd be appropriate.
That sounds good. I came from a Chapel Hill, and they actually allow chickens in town, but there's a limit on the number, and they're only hens, not adult roosters, so you don't have to crowing, which would be a nuisance. So, and our family had chickens for a while, and they certainly don't create the odor and the bugs that other livestock do. Now we keep our chickens in the freezer.
You're doing so well. That is a perfect that we move forward. And the attorney. Yes.
The proposed, yes.
Thank you.
Okay. John, you gonna start off?
I want to keep it brief, but I think we can all see how difficult it continues to be to balance everything on our little end of the island that's in the best interest of our neighbors and our island. No one would argue that the Topsail Nature Preserve is definitely in the best interest of our neighborhood, our state, our nation. But we see that we have to balance things. We have to give things up to get to the good stuff. So that's all I got to say.
Yeah. First, I just wanted to do a shout out to a young man named Dallas Smith, one of our residents, who completed his Eagle Scout project recently. He oversaw the building of a replica of a bumblebee observation tower, which is currently on display at the Missile and More Museum at the Assembly Building. If you have a chance to go by and look at that, he is one of our residents, so we're real proud of him. And then lastly, if no one knew it, it's National Chocolate Day. So since you stayed here long enough, you're welcome to come up and get some chocolate.
I just want to reiterate what Tim Zizak said. He agrees with me on this issue is thank you, Sam, for what you've done, for what you've meant to our town and our residents. Sam's been in my house to help my poor mama more than once, who had imaginary visitors when she had Alzheimer's, and he dealt with it with grace. I do have a broken doorknob still, so, oh well. She was convinced people were locking themselves behind the door. But you need to know that we have had 2 police chiefs in 52 years, and that is remarkable. And I think that tenure is a part of the reason why we have such a unique culture. And hopefully the next police chief comes in understanding there's long history and the tenure has to be there because it makes a huge difference. Our fire department, last thing, and our police department, I understand, were the first on the scene at the Surf City Fire. And we deserve kudos for our staff for being on top of that. That's remarkable.
Both of what I would mention that have just been mentioned, one by John Best, who talked about the balance we have to use when we're making decisions about things that are good for the town. Was it to preserve for the trucks? And that was a difficult decision. You lose to some extent, no matter which way you go, but you also win to some extent. And the other is our fire and police were both first there the other night. And I suspect that one of the adjacent houses was saved by the quick work of firemen, and that's most likely our guys. So kudos to them again.
Appreciate everybody coming out. Sound like we're having a barbecue sometime.
I feel it's an honor that I'm able to preside over Sam's last meeting. And Sam, would you like to say anything?
I owe whatever success I've had to my staff and then the many people in town who have advised me and kept me out of trouble in some cases. And my dad told me when I was a kid, he said, Sam, you'll do well as long as you surround yourself with smart people. So that's what I did. And I'm honored to have been your police chief and to serve here in Topsail Beach. And I thank you all.
Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Second.
Lost power. I got power off.
Councilman Hicks.